Welcome to All Electric Conversations, where we talk with pioneers in traveling with electric vehicles. We're your hosts, Katie and Steve Krivolovic of the All Electric family. From road trips and towing to daily life, we'll hear stories of wanderlust and progress to inspire your own adventures with All Electric Conversations. All right, welcome to another All Electric Conversations podcast. Today we are here with Samuel Hernandez, and he is going to talk to us a little bit about his experience with electric vehicles and what he's been up to. So Samuel, we'll just start by having you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from, and what are you driving?
Well, my name is Samuel, as you guys just mentioned. I'm a big off-roader. Been driving my 2017 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon that I say is basically stock, but it's on 40-inch tires, 1-ton axles, a V8 swap, triple bypass, blah. I mean, a whole bunch. Basically, it's no longer a Jeep. Um, but that was my daily driver. I'm based here out of SoCal, in the Orange County area. I'm in sales, so I cover LA, Orange County, and San Diego. And when I did the V8 Hemi swap, which was awesome on the Jeep for off-roading, not so good on miles per gallon. So 9 miles per gallon driving to LA and San Diego just pretty much sucked, right? So
Yeah.
um, I ended up buying an Audi e-tron. I'm a huge Audi fan. Been driving Audis and Volkswagens practically all my life. My first car was a 1969 Volkswagen Fastback,
Nice.
and it just kind of evolved from there to Audis.
Yeah.
But had the e-tron for a while, and then I had my. It was always meant to be an interim vehicle because I put my order in for the Cybertruck, which you know who knows when that's going to happen.
Right? We're all still waiting on that.
Yikes. Uh, which is kind of funny because my wife was like, "That's the ugliest truck I've ever seen." Like, I don't like it. Um, but I simultaneously put the order in for the Rivian, and as soon as that order came up, I picked it up and been driving that since.
When did you put in your order for your R1T?
So I put the order in about a year and a month before picking it up.
Nice.
And the funny thing is I actually had the max battery pack on
Yeah.
order. And, all my friends were like, "When you getting your Rivian? When you getting your Rivian? Hey, sell me your reservation." You know, I'm like, I kind of want to drive this thing. It's
Yeah.
awesome. And I had some buddies that work there, and they were like, "Hey, man, like, don't wait for the max pack. It's gonna take forever." And we know how impatient you are. So I literally- I changed my order, and 2 weeks later, this is back in I think, yeah, it was like in November of last year. I changed my order to the standard large battery pack, and 2 weeks later, I'm like, "Hey, we have a ship date." I'm like, "Oh crap, I got to figure out how I'm gonna pay for this thing."
Yeah.
Uh, you know, but yeah, and then I had it literally like within a month. I had the
Awesome.
R1T delivered. Actually picked it up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's kind of a reoccurring theme we've heard. Like if you adjust your configuration to what they have available, then you get a truck pretty quickly. But if you hold out
Yeah.
for kind of what you originally configured, then it's going to take a while. Because I mean, we had the launch green and the ocean coast interior and all that stuff. So and when we switched it, then we were like, oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I mean, we basically called them and said, we'll take whatever you have. Just
Whatever
give
Yeah.
us
you
a
have.
truck. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
not the yellow one, whatever
Yeah,
that one was
yeah.
called.
We weren't big
I
fan.
would have
Yeah.
taken it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
It's a fun color for sure. I mean, there's one in the neighborhood. It's really cool because I'm here in Orange County. They're headquartered in Irvine. I
yeah.
sell, I sell cybersecurity, technology, data center stuff, and they were actually
Mhm.
one of my customers.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
So,
fun.
oh yeah, it's real. I mean, I'm a total Rivian nerd. I couldn't find my Rivian shirt today. I think it's in the laundry. Um, but yeah, super super geeked out on the company and the car and um and I love it. So there's a couple of them here. There's the yellow one, the blue one, and always the white and the grays and whatever. But you see them all around here. It's pretty cool.
Right.
That's awesome. Yeah, we've even here in Lincoln, Nebraska, we've started seeing them more often. We just have been talking. We're if we go outside of our little circle of going to school and dance and stuff like that, then we almost always see a Rivian now, which was like, I mean, from the time we got ours to when we saw more, it was probably 5 months. So we're really excited about finally
Yeah.
seeing more. So
I went
Which I
to
feel
a
I feel like
charger in Cabazon. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
uh, which I feel like is a progression a lot faster than I noticed Tesla
yeah,
here, because it took
definitely.
forever to see Teslas.
It did.
And
Really.
then yeah, but I mean, it's Midwest, and so I think people are starting to enjoy electric vehicles here too. So
Hmm. I was just gonna say I was charging in Cabazon, and mind you, I'm got the tow rig on there, and I pull up, and every single charger there was like 3 chargers, Electrify America, where every single charger was a Rivian. I was like, "Oh, man,
it's awesome.
this is so cool." I should
That's
have grabbed a
fun.
picture, but I was like, sometimes getting out and getting the charger to start, by the time I got that all going, they had already left, so.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So why don't you tell us a little about your setup or your tow rig? So how does that work?
My setup is insane. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm towing, my Jeep. And if you check my Instagram, you see it's basically a brick. It's got the
Yes.
aerodynamic brick. Which, as you know, listen to your previous podcast. Aerodynamic. That gentleman about the aerodynamics was so fascinating, right?
Yes.
It plays such a huge role. So I'm borrowing a trailer from my buddy who lives nearby, and so I'll pick up the trailer, put my Jeep on it, and go out. So it's basically a toy hauler, and because of the size and weight of my vehicle weighs by itself with no fridge and no beer in the fridge, like at least 6,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Then you add, the steaks and the cervezas and like all this stuff,
The
you
important
know,
stuff.
That's
the important
10,000.
stuff. Are we out of water? Yes, but we've got beer. We're okay.
Yeah.
That's how we roll too.
Uh, yeah, exactly. It gets really heavy, and there's no aerodynamics about that setup at all. I think
No.
all in, I'm about 9,000 pounds. Um, with the weight of it's all steel, super wide, fairly long toy hauler. And then when I take the Rivian, like with this last trip to King of the Hammers, I mean, I volunteered for a race team to cook for their team, and so I brought like a second fridge that I put in the Rivian, and even more food and stuff. And so I mean, I all in it was a pretty heavy payload.
Yeah.
Um, but the crazy part is like I've never towed before, and I've never done a long distance trip in an EV before. So I decided that it would be a really cool, smart thing
Nice.
to load up the Jeep in the trailer, learn how to hook up the trailer first of all, and then drive 840 miles to Utah
I love
round
it.
trip and say, "Hey, let's just see what happened. What's the worst that could happen?" Right?
Yes.
Um, it was awesome.
Yeah, all in. That's the way we like to do it too, where we just, jump all in, just give it a whirl. Who cares what happens? We'll figure it out as we go, right?
Yeah, I'll never forget because I did all the research, just some preparation, right? It wasn't
Yeah, yeah.
fully,
Yeah.
and so everyone's like, "Yeah, you should get about 100 miles range when you're towing." And my first, from the last charger to the first charger was 108 miles, and I was like, "Well, here we go."
Hold my beer.
Yeah, exactly. Hold my beer. But it did amazing. Like, it's almost. I feel like it's almost cheating towing for the first time in an EV because you don't feel it. It's
No.
so stable.
Yep.
Everyone was, sharing concerns about like trailer sway and like,
Mhm.
just really feeling unstable on the road and kind of it being
Hmm.
sluggish and hard to stop. And I didn't experience any of those things.
No.
No, it is incredible. Like, uh, even for me as the passenger, because I I mean, I've towed it a couple of times, but not in an EV, and I should because I probably would be like, oh, I can do this forever. But in our even our F350, you'd feel that trailer back there pushing you around. And then we
Mhm.
got into the Rivian, and I'm like, this thing is ridiculous. You have no
Yeah.
idea you've got a trailer behind you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty amazing what I don't even the difference between the Lightning and the Rivian.
Hmm.
There is a difference, and I'm
There is.
not 100
Mhm.
percent sure what that is. It could be the 300 or 400 extra pounds that the Rivian weighs in the Lightning, or something along that lines. But that Rivian is super stable,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I love towing with it. And so I'm curious, how many miles did you have left on that 108-mile leg that you had?
On that particular trip, funny enough, I had like 19 miles,
Yeah, I
and
Nice.
assumed.
so I mean, it was pretty close. And
Yeah,
and honestly, 19 miles is a lot.
yeah,
It is.
yeah.
You guys see my I mean, I I
I
I
know.
took that 0.
I saw. Yeah, I
Right.
commented. You hit the limit.
I I literally on this last trip to King of the Hammer, which is funny because like, for whatever reason, I struggled more going. I think King of the Hammers is, I don't know, probably like a 300-mile round trip, you know?
Mhm.
Uh, but going there is like 150-mile, we'll call it, right? I had more trouble doing that than going to Utah. A lot of it has to do with where the chargers are,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
cold it is, the elevation change.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Uh, Coming back from King of the Hammers, I it hit 0 and I'm on the side of the road, on the freeway, like, well, I've got another 2 miles to go. I'm at 0. This is it. I mean, we're done. This is
Yeah.
the moment where I call AAA and have
Yeah.
to deal with all that headache, and it's definitely slowed down. I was going like 45,
Mhm.
had to pull over, and by the time I got to a trickle charger, which was the first thing that I could find within range, it literally said, "Pull over, performing emergency stop," and then I'm like, so I stop, I look over, oh, there's the charger, and just kind of
Yeah.
pulled into it, plugged in, and took a nap.
Yeah, yep. Yeah. Well, and once you've had those experiences and you get to know your vehicle and you learn that
Yeah.
you can make it through those situations, then you're like, "Oh yeah, I can do anything," So
I don't recommend it, man. It is
no,
so
No.
no.
stressful. Like, I had my wife with me, and she's like, "Oh my god, what's gonna
Oh, she
happen?"
was
I'm like,
with you.
"Yeah, first time." You know, looking back, that was easy. Like, we have plenty of range. 0 is a guidance. Like,
It's a guidance.
like,
Do
you know.
do not do that in the Ford Lightning. It immediately shuts off.
So in the e-tron as well. I've taken on this journey to see. You know what? I don't want to change the way I do things. Right? I
Mhm.
just want to get in the vehicle and go.
Yeah.
And so that's been my experience. And I remember with the e-tron I drove, which has horrible range, by the way. I think
Yeah, I was gonna
fully
say not much.
like 172 miles, like at 100%,
Yeah.
right? I drove to San Diego, ran an errand, which was the mistake that I made, and then came home, and it was like, well, I've got 3 miles left. I'm 3 miles from the house. I should be fine, but then I didn't come for the uphill, and when it hit 0, it just stopped. It was done.
Uh,
The funny part is like I could see where I was. I could see my house from where I was. You know what I mean? I was
Oh,
like,
jeez.
you're
yeah,
like,
and to
"Let's
make
push it, guys."
yeah, let's just see where it goes. By the way, 0 means 0 on an e-tron. Um,
Yeah.
the funny part about the story is I had a conference call that I had to do, so I sat there for like 2 hours because I had to do my conference call before I called AAA. I didn't want to be getting towed while I'm on the call. It was kind of funny.
Yeah.
That would have been
But
an interesting call.
right, like I
Yeah.
start all the beeping noises and chain rattling, right? Uh, oh man.
It
The
seems
But
like
the
he's a
Rivian
bit
was
like me. Push
I
the limit.
no, I was actually just gonna say that. I was like, "I think you 2 would get along well, and you guys can go road trip wherever, and you guys will be
right?
fine."
Oh man.
Because you can
I
always figure it out. That's what I mean.
We'll
Even if
figure
you
it
got
out
it, yeah, it just doesn't matter.
100%.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
part of the fun. I'm in I was like king of the hammers. I completely grenaded my Jeep. I blew the transfer case on it, hit it on a rock, and it cracked, whatever.
Ooh,
So I wasn't counting on driving the Rivian all that much while I was there. So you go up and you watch trails, and we had a photo shoot with Nitto, which I'm a brand ambassador for.
nice.
And so there's a lot of driving back around, back and forth. And so all of a sudden, I'm like, I might need to charge my Rivian in the middle of the desert where there's not even cell reception, Uh,
Yes.
and to your point, we figured it out. I was staying in an RV with my cousin, and I plugged it into the 110 at night. While the generator was running, and I got about 5% charge each night, and that was enough for me to do whatever I wanted for the day,
Mhm.
come back and charge, and so much so that I didn't even charge every night. It was like, I'll have enough, because
Nice.
the newest charger was like 50 miles away, and I was always had like at least 100 miles, so it wasn't a concern.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, something that people are if you're following Rivian, you're starting to realize that people are going out there and taking these trucks out in the middle of nowhere and, exploring and having fun and doing all the stuff that they want to do and then figuring out a way to charge. So I think that's,
Mhm.
a cool thing that people are starting to like really get out and explore more with EVs. And I think Rivian is kind of taken the lead on that just because it's built to do that kind of stuff. But that's cool to
Mhm.
hear that literally in the middle of the desert
Oh
and
yeah,
you just figure out a way to get it to charge. It's not that big of a deal.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's my jam, and I love getting out there. I mean, as an outdoor
Mhm.
guy, like start a fire with a flint stick and no matches, kind of thing, and just go out as far as I can when there's nobody, no cell reception, um, and just enjoy nature, man. I just love doing that. My Jeep has provided me that ability to go out into these crazy places, and I've taken the Rivian like off roading,
Mhm.
like I took 4 guys from Rivian, who had never been off-roading before, to a local trail called Cleghorn, which is like it's a simple trail, but let's just put it this way, there's a rollover there every single weekend. Somebody
Oh
rolls their
wow.
rig, flips it over on their lid, and they have to get recovered. Um, so it's challenging enough where you can get yourself into trouble. And I took one of the
Yep.
guys up. He's literally like vertical, and I'm like, "It's okay, keep coming, like you're gonna be fine." And everyone's going, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna roll," and I was so impressed for a stock truck. What that thing can do in some pretty gnarly situations. We took every single offshoot, every we call it optional line,
Mhm.
um, and it just you put it in raw crawl mode, and you just it's which is the opposite of driving a Jeep. You put it in raw crawl mode, and you slam on the gas, and you just go, and it's just plugs and it figures itself out. Versus in a Jeep, you're like you slam on the gas, you're gonna roll. Um, it was
Yeah.
amazing. It did so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that we need people like you that are willing to go on these adventures with the Rivian to show other people that are interested in off-roading like you are that it is possible. I'm
Mhm.
assuming there's some sort of limits. It is a stock vehicle, all that stuff, and it doesn't you can't have just a jerry can coming along with you for fuel and
Right.
stuff like that. So there are limits, but somebody like you that's willing to push it to the limits and show people, hey, this is a viable option for a lot of different
Mhm.
things. So I'm
I
excited
mean,
about that.
I agree, man. I think it's basically like if you look, I look at it like a Tacoma, right? The
Mhm.
Tacoma is a very capable
It is. Yeah.
mid-size truck that's very good at off-roading. You see a lot of those out in the trails, right? That are modded with bigger tires, which you can't really do in the Rivian. But for a
Mhm.
stock, I mean, there's a trail called Sand Hollow OHV Park. It's in Hurricane, Utah. That's where I towed the Jeep to for Winter 4x4 Jamboree. Um, and it's off-roading heaven, man. It's just amazing off-roading. It's awesome. But to get there, you go through this little tunnel under the freeway, and then you have to make this hard left turn, and you're immediately met by rocks. And I think the first ledge is about 2 or 3 feet tall. And
Oh,
so and so everyone's like, "There's no way the Rivian's going there." And I'm like, "Well, let's just try it. Like, let's push the limit. Let's see what happens, right? Spot me kind of thing." And
yeah.
so, I hit highest mode and I kind of come up to it and hit it at an angle, and I didn't even touch anything. It just crawled right up the rock, and it was amazing. And everyone was like, as I get through into the park, and it's like it's really cool, like sand dune. It's all red sand. It's beautiful. You
Oh,
got a
fun.
lake background, snow-capped mountain. It's just stunning. Um, but you're in these dunes, and we're just bombing through there, like at full speed. And everyone was
That's
like,
awesome.
"How did you get this here?" Like, because they know what it takes to get there. Like, "How did you do this?" And I'm like, "Just went up the rock and, like, and here we are."
I pressed the
And
accelerator and went up the rock.
yeah, you know, turn left, like, what did you do?
GPS said go left, so I went left.
Yeah, it's the big deal. That's what you did, right? And it and it was funny because like, it drew this big crowd.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's, like, watching me, do the, donuts and whatnot in the sand, and one guy came up and says, I gotta get a ride." Total stranger. "I gotta get a ride in this thing. Will you take me in a ride for this?" I'm like, "Sure, let's go." And so we went
Yeah.
around and, I bottomed out the Rivian. Mind you, I'm at not the highest setting for the second, so because you can only go 20 miles per hour at the highest setting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I went high, and so we were bombing through, and I hit a point on a dune, and kinda came down, bottomed out a bit, made me a little bit nervous, checked out, totally
Yeah.
fine. Got it stuck in the sand, like,
Oh, no.
it was an experiment. Usually when you go do that, you're supposed to air it down to, like, 20 PSI.
Yeah.
I'm at
Mhm.
47 PSI, so of
Oh,
course I'm
really?
gonna get you know? Um, and, I get towed out by this huge Jeep Gladiator with the V8, this massive 42-inch tires, like, and he's tugging me out, everyone's taking pictures and video, and it was a blast, man. It was, like, so much fun, so much
Yeah.
fun.
So the capabilities of that sounds like it's pretty great, but do you think that there are certain limitations for how much that thing weighs? Like, I don't know a ton about driving in sand and
Yeah.
off-roading, but like, what do you see as the limitations with that?
Yeah, lighter is better, right? When you're in super soft sand, lighter is better, and, that's the reason why you air down your tires because it spreads the load, right, over each tire, just a little bit more, so you get better traction. We call it flotation. You kinda wanna float over the sand as much as
Okay.
possible.
Mhm.
But being in a 7,000-pound vehicle is not conducive to that, uh, but the way you accommodate for that is horsepower,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you just, you back up and you gotta hit it, you gotta commit and you gotta go. So my Jeep, is not that much lighter than the Rivian, and it does fine. I think I got 500 horses in there.
Yeah.
Much bigger tires, so much
Yeah.
more displacement, right? Um, but they say there's no replacement for displacement. Uh, we call them Hurspers. I got plenty of horsepower in the Rivian, right? And so there was a point where I kinda didn't make it up a dune, so I just backed it up a little bit more and just slammed on the throttle or whatever we call it, the pedal.
Right?
I don't know what
The
you call it.
accelerator.
The
Everyone
go
kept on
pedal.
calling it gas. I'm like, "Oh, that's right."
Yeah.
It's not gas.
I've been
I
corrected
still
on
call
that too. Yep.
I still call it that all the time.
Yeah.
Well,
Forget
that's
the
awesome. So,
throttle.
can you air down the Rivian tires? Do you know much about that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so cool little tip. So we have all these little off-roading tools that help you deflate your tires fast,
Hmm.
right? Like Airbnb has one, not Airbnb. Oh gosh, it'll come to me.
Yep.
There are tools, the air tools that you can basically plug in to help you air down. So in the Rivian, I think on the driver's side, tunnel door, you have your air kit.
Mhm.
And in the air kit have a little nozzle that you connect to the hose. You can just take that nozzle, plug it into your tire, and it deflates the tire pretty fast.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
that's a
Yeah,
great idea. Nice, dude.
super fast. And I do a 10 count, and then see where the pressure is.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's pretty consistent. It's faster in the beginning, but overall it's about the same. So you can do like a 30 or 40 count on the Rivian. That'll bring you down to like just just around 30 psi, and totally fine. A lot of it's going to be around how much of a bulge you're getting at ride height, right? If you start to
Okay.
see the tire kind of compress a little bit, that's usually enough. I would start there. Anything I would say over 20 psi, you're fine. The risk you run is losing a bead,
Yeah.
right? You lose, and there's ways to fix that. It's not the end of the world. But you can lose a bead if it gets too low. I go down to like 9 psi on my Jeep, but I've got bead locks, right?
Yeah.
So that keeps it from slipping. But on a standard rim, usually people go down as low as 15. I don't know that I would do it given the weight of the Rivian. So,
Yeah.
probably 20, 25
Okay.
would be fine. But yeah, I just use that little clip from the air up, air down kit, plug it in, count to 30, and
That's a great
send it.
idea. Because I was using, I think, a stick in Colorado. So
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but this was our first go out,
we've
and
never
right.
off-roaded
and
before.
we're sitting there. We knew enough to air down, so we're sitting there airing down and watching a line of people like stop and wait for us, so that they could watch us go down the trail. And we're like, no, please don't, please don't.
Because we have 3 kids and a dog. They're like, these people have no clue what they're doing, which they were correct.
Yeah,
There
and
you go.
it was so we went and got the Colorado off-road book, and we went and found a place, and we found one that it was like moderate, because I mean we knew that we wanted to test the truck a little bit. We wanted to get out and
Yeah.
get it off-road and do some stuff that was gonna probably give us a little bit of some heart palpitations while we were doing it. And there was a difficult section, but we didn't have to do it. And
Yeah, we did.
so we take off, we go down this road, and yep, he takes it. And like, he's asking me, he's like, do you think we can make it? I'm like, I have no idea. I'm like, you're better off getting out and going and asking that guy if you think we can make it. It was an adventure, but we made it.
There was another Rivian there, but he was just parked down below, and we ran into him. He was on a side-by-side.
Yep.
And I think he was very surprised we had it out there. I thought it was funny.
What are those guys doing? Yeah.
That's what I thought. I'm like, come on.
But
Yeah.
yeah, we made it through, and it was a blast. But I mean, that would be my one word of caution, and I'll ask you what your word of caution would be next. But for the newbies that just go off-road for the first time in the Rivians, is that everybody is going to be watching you.
Yeah.
Everybody has eyes on you. So if that makes you nervous and causes you to have mistakes, like maybe wait a little bit longer till they're a little bit more common. But what would you say, like, if somebody wants to start off-roading with their Rivian, they got the truck, they fell in love with it, they want to start off-roading. Obviously, you have lots of experience. Like, what tips would you give somebody for off-roading with their Rivian?
You're 100% right. People are going to be watching. I mean, we drew a crowd, right?
Yep.
They're coming like, we call them rock people every so often, because it feels like the people, that scene from Star Wars, where all these guys come out of the rock, and like, where do these guys come from? Like, people from everywhere watching you. And the one thing that I would say is everyone there is willing to help.
Yeah.
The off-road community is so awesome. That if you're truly in trouble, just say, hey, can you give me a hand? And everyone's going to jump in, move the rig, whatever it takes to help you. They're willing. Don't be afraid. But with that, I mean, the number one rule that I tell people, please, please, please don't go alone.
Yeah.
Do not go by yourself. Like, go with another rig that's capable of getting you out of trouble, which means like you got to have a winch. They probably have to have some weight to them. Do not go alone. I always carry 3 days worth of food and water in my Jeep at any time, but that's because I'm going out into these like there's nobody, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
But if you're a well-traveled trail, bring water, bring your basic survival necessities. for a day or two or whatever. But don't go alone. And the other thing too is, you know, you kind of just have to try it. Like, you know, there's several different styles of off-roading: go fast, go slow, rock crawling, which I don't necessarily recommend in the Rivian. At least the rock crawling that I do. I mean, I'm going over rocks the size of Volkswagens, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to do that in the Rivian, but that
Yeah.
thing is super capable. And
Mhm.
I think if you start small and you're with a good group of friends that have your best interests in mind versus, you know, going viral on Instagram because the
Mm.
stupid thing you just did,
Yeah.
which is a thing. If everyone's pulling out their phone saying, "Yeah, yeah, you got it, just send it," like probably,
That's a red flag.
um, you know, it's awesome. There is nothing more healing for me, at least for me, and I think for everybody, honestly, like than being out in the middle of nowhere. You know, you
Mhm.
stop because like something caught your attention. You get outside, you look around, and you're just like, wow,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
this. I can't believe I just did that. You know,
Yep.
taking the trail like you guys did, and then looking back, like no one remembers going on a dirt road unless that dirt road took you somewhere interesting,
Yeah.
right?
True.
Yep.
It's the difficult journeys along the way that make it memorable. Like
Mhm.
that's for me, you know. So you just got to go out there, try it, be a little bit adventurous. I think you know, it definitely will build memories. No one's gonna
Yes.
remember how much miles per gallon or what your range was on that,
Right?
unless you went to 0 like me. I remember that, but
Yeah. But that was part of the adventure.
that's part of the adventure, right?
That's what makes the fun
Um,
stories, right?
exactly, exactly. And then the last thing is you know, pack out whatever you packed in. You
Yes,
know, I think
absolutely.
a lot of people with you know 2020 being what it was are realizing that hey, there's an outdoors out there and I kind of
Mm.
like it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they've never really you know, they don't know the etiquette, right? And so we're
Yeah.
seeing one part of the tread lightly team, and so we do a lot of like cleanup events for trails or whatever. It's amazing what you see out there. It's actually kind of disheartening, but
Yeah.
that's the one thing that I would say is if you're new to off-roading, like leave it better than you found it. You
Yes.
know, I'll stop in the middle of the road and pick up trash that I see in the trail.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and I try to make it a point to do it in front of other people.
Yes.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just got like picked up that like that's weird. Like maybe I should do that too. You know,
Yeah.
heard
Yeah.
a example in that regard. But yeah, leave it better than you found it. Don't go alone and
Mhm.
go have fun, enjoy nature, man. That's the mantra, I guess.
Yes. It is. It's getting out into nature is healing in so many ways, and I mean, we not only for ourselves, but we see it within our kids too. So,
Yeah.
we love getting away and just, when the only reason they want to pick up their phone is because like it's so epic that they're like, I have to take a video of this. They're just like, it's
Yeah.
so cool to them that they're like, this is so cool. And so we love it too. But we may have to have another conversation outside the podcast too, because with the Tread Lightly, because we're wanting to do some stuff with them too. So we may talk to you about that as well, because we feel like that is a really important thing, is to leave it better than you found it and leave it for future generations so that they can continue to do the same things that we're doing. So
Hmm.
we're
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We had several trails that have been closed as a result of, you know, people trashing it. You know, you look at Alabama Hills. Alabama Hills is a very popular spot to go kind of overlanding and camping and whatnot. It's near the oh gosh, what they call it, the base camp for um one of the major hikes down in Lone Pine.
okay.
Um, so it's super popular. It's just beautiful, and they ended up shutting it down because people were trashing it. Right, so
That's
now you
just,
have to have permits, and certain areas of the camps have to close down.
hmm,
Because we do a good job taking care of it. So yeah, I mean, get outside, but take care of it. Right,
yeah.
it's a beautiful thing to do, and honestly, like I always tell people, like at the end of my live streams on Instagram, like just be nice to each other. Right, like go
Hmm.
smile, wave, like do something nice for somebody. You'll feel
Yep.
you'll make it feel good, and so does
Hmm.
like you know leaving it better than then you found it. Like you feel good about it, and that's that, and you carry that with you for a while. Like it's
Oh
not
yeah.
just like my cup of coffee lasts like 2 hours. That a piece of trash I picked up, like that stays with me for a while. It's just awesome.
Yep.
That's
It is. It's
hilarious.
a good feeling. Yeah. Yeah. I gotta refill the coffee, but
We're 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 always doing that at campsites.
yeah.
We have our oldest child. She loves nature and loves all
Mhm.
that, and she's always, which is good. She learned it from us, but like, she's always dragging us out to pick up trash and all sorts of stuff. So
Mhm.
it's great, and you're right. It makes you feel good for a long period of time, and
Mhm.
you're being nice to nature, as
Yeah.
Yep.
you were talking about being nice to other people. You're being nice to nature, and
Yeah.
we got to do that.
Mhm.
It's very important.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
Yes. So what else? Let's see.
Well, I wanted
I
to
know.
ask
Yeah,
about.
go ahead.
I've seen in I believe it's an Instagram post, and I couldn't figure out if it was yours or a friend, but a tent that you put on the back of your Rivian. Have
Oh
you
yeah.
used that?
Oh, dude, that thing was awesome. Zero effect on range, by the way, like
Really?
zero. Yeah.
Nice.
So that's the iCamper Mini. So one of the guys that runs it's a group called Rig for Dirt. It's a local group here in SoCal that meets on the first Saturday of every month, and it's a bunch of overlanders, rock crawlers, whatever, mainly overlanders, right? We all sit around and go, "Oh man, I need that piece of gear. Like, where'd you get that? What is that? Like I've been overlanding for years, and I always find something else that I need
Of course.
at these events." But his name is Ali. He's I think at Kate the Jeep on Instagram. It's his tent. That guy's got so much gear. He's got all the gear, right? And so I was like, "Hey man, can I borrow your tent? I just want to see like the fit, function and all that." So it's the iCamper Mini, which is good. It's a 3-person tent, right? It's
Hmm.
good for two. Um, we were in the middle of the desert. We got a couple high wind days. I think they were at 45, 50 mile per hour
Oof.
wind at one
Wow.
point, and it was fine, totally fine.
Nice.
It fits perfect in the back. So I've got the stock Rivian, bars or whatever.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say, but it's held together right now with ratchet straps. But I couldn't like, I just ratchet strapped the tent underneath in a very secure manner. We'll call it that. Uh, we're gonna go with that.
Making it work.
It didn't work. And it's absolutely perfect. Like I should get some pictures of like the drop off, where it kind of meets the tail.
Hmm.
You're
Mhm.
able to lift it up. There is one kind of like window awning that you can't use because it's against the back window.
Hmm.
But it's perfect. I like it because it's a hard shell versus the Yakima tent that Rivian was initially offering,
Yeah.
which
Mhm.
is basically another brick, right? I mean, going
Hmm.
back to the conversation you guys had with the gentleman about aerodynamics, the
Mhm.
iCamper Mini it's a hard shell. It's very aerodynamic. I literally saw zero. 'Cause I always watch the efficiency, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Uh, Zero effect on efficiency whatsoever. And I would almost argue that when I'm towing the Jeep, that it might actually help because it's
I
raising
was
the air
wondering
profile
about that.
higher.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
um, and I love it. I mean, it's got like I want to say it's like a inch or inch and a half, maybe 2 inch thick foam. But as a backpacker, hiker, or whatever, I've got my air up kit that I keep in my bag, and
Mhm.
that's you add that to it, and it's totally fine. The funny part is with this last trip, I thought I had my 0 degree bag and my 30-degree bag of the same color. Mistake. You should probably like make sure they're different colors. I grabbed the wrong one, you know.
Oops.
So I'm in the tent, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, I'm freezing." It it was like 30 degrees, I think
Ooh.
yeah, it was cold. And so I get my flashlight, I'm looking, and I'm like, "Oh, crap, it's my 30 bag," like, major mistake. So I went out, got my puppy vest, puppy jacket, put that on, and then I was fine, with the but
Oh man.
grab the right bag, right?
Yeah.
But it was fine. Plenty of room in there. It just fits perfect. It fits perfect on the Rivian. I think that's what I'm gonna end up going with.
Yeah.
Awesome. And do you know much about that iCamper? I've heard little things about them. How you had talked about the hard
Mhm.
case or top to it,
Yeah.
and then they have a variation of sizes, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So
And
that
then
iCamper Mini is perfect, right?
yeah.
Anything bigger, it's gonna hang over
Oh, okay.
by a lot.
Okay.
Like it'll hang over and probably be too wide, also for the bed itself. Um, that one is the one that I would recommend. Even for the Jeep Wrangler, like it's good. Because you don't want to on the Jeep, you don't want too much weight up there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Buddy has a couple. He's got a large one, and you can get some pretty massive, tents.
Yeah. I've looked at some of those and they have it where it kind of hangs off the end and then kind of creates another room down on the ground or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, so you can do that with this, and there's plenty
You
of
can.
room for it. So yeah. So it all basically attaches with zippers, so you can put an annex. Which if you've never gotten an RTT, I'm a floor tent guy, right? I've got the Gazelle 5-person tent, which is like the Taj Mahal when you're camping. I mean, oh my god, it's huge. It sets up like in literally a minute. You just pop it out.
Nice.
Awesome.
We put My wife and I, when I take her camp, it's kind of funny when I go camping. It's like a bag. When we go camping, we're loaded to the toe, right? My wife, man, she sets up the camp. I mean, we got an area rug in the tent.
It's
We got a little.
essential. Those are essential things.
I'm like, wow, like this is nice. We could stay here for a month, you know.
That's awesome.
Yes.
But it's so true.
As
It's
he looks at
true.
me, he's like, the area rug that comes out with the art camper and everything
Like you
else.
don't
Yeah,
realize it's nice until it's there. It's like, I
yeah,
don't need this. Oh yeah, maybe I do.
yeah. Like the poop tent. Like amazing. I gave her such a hard like we're camping. Like, what are you talking about? Like, we're not. That's cheating. I, I take that thing everywhere I go. When I'm camping, that
Perfect.
was that was a good call on her part.
Sometimes we are smart and we know what we're talking about.
That's awesome.
It, it,
I
it's a
mean,
game.
you're probably on the lucky side. Like for him, my poop tent is a 30-foot Airstream. So,
Yeah.
at least you didn't end up with that.
Yeah, yeah. That's
So,
funny.
So how do you see yourself using that iCamper when you get it? Do you think you'll like versus your tent that you were talking about?
I think I think I'll end up using it more. I mean, especially with the annex, right? Like having the annex because when you're in RTT, getting dressed is a challenge, right? Because like you
Okay.
can't stand up, and so with the annex, it creates kind of like that living space where you can
Hmm.
you can take your shoes off, get changed, do whatever. Um, but that's probably the way I'll end up going if I'm doing a solo trip. I do a lot of solo trips where me and the guys and we just kind of go out.
Hmm.
Um, if it's gonna be my wife and I, definitely need the annex.
Okay.
Um, I think on in the case of the Rivian, like it makes a lot of sense for me because I have the truck bed and
mhm.
I can throw things back there. In the Jeep or like a Forerunner or whatever, not as much because it's you're a lot higher up, and a lot of what we end up doing in the Jeep, like you don't want a tent on top of it. You're gonna roll, right?
Okay.
Uh, so it's just two different styles, like two different use cases, right? So if I'm
Okay.
just gonna go out camping and just kind of a chill kind of trip, definitely the iCamper is gonna be what I end up doing because I mean, it sets up like you unbuckle two things, you flip it up, you put two little rods in, and you're going to bed. You know,
Nice.
um, which is really nice. So yeah, I'll probably use it for that. That'll be tip number 4 or 5. Uh,
I see you do have a problem. Are you admitting it?
Possible. It's possible.
He's not to that stage yet.
I'm not there yet. I'm starting to see, like,
Hey.
I think you should get it.
right? It's
I
like
am no help.
motorcycles, like, you can never have too many motorcycles, right? Like,
Yeah.
All the toys. You just got to keep adding on.
the gadgets, exactly.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that'll be the main thing, it is, it's funny, like, my Instagram is iam.rocklander,
Mhm.
and the funny part about that name is, when I bought the Jeep, the whole premise was we're just gonna go out and, like, we'll do these really cool trails, we'll do some, like, water crossings, we'll go camping, these really cool spots,
Mhm.
like, it's called Overlanding, it's gonna be epic. And then I get the Jeep, I drive it, and I'm like, and I had an Audi at A4 at the time, and I was like, I'm never driving the Audi again. I love this Jeep.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
sold the Audi, and I put all the money from the Audi into the suspension, rock tires, rock sliders, all that kind of stuff, and I
Mhm.
built a rock crawler by accident. I didn't mean to, but it just kind of happened. And so we're going back and forth. And she says, "Well, you said you were going to build an Overlander," and I'm like, "You built a rock crawler," and I'm like, "Well, how come I can't have both?" And she's like a rock lander, and I was like, "Oh,
There it
oh,
is.
that's cool. We can use that. Like, that's amazing."
That's
And
awesome.
that's where the term came from, like, and
Yeah.
it's stuck.
That I like it. I like it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So is it just your Instagram? Is that where people can find you? Is just on that Instagram?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'm on Facebook, but most of my stuff is on Instagram. Everyone keeps
Perfect.
bugging me about creating a YouTube channel, but as you know, that's a lot of work, and
It is a lot of
uh,
work.
it's a full-time job, and
Yes.
um, I do have a whole bunch of Rivian content that people are asking me to post up there, just because, my trip from San Hollow in the red, sand dunes. I got some
Yeah.
drone footage of that, and
Ooh.
um, I got some real cool footage of, like, the guys going up Cleghorn, just doing some really gnarly angles and whatnot. And so I'll probably just post those up as simple videos.
Yeah.
Um, but God, I don't even know what my YouTube channel link is. No, I have
I'm
one.
sure you'll share it on your Instagram when
Yeah,
you
there you
post it, so people can
yeah,
find you there.
yeah, exactly. Instagram is where I post all my adventures. You'll see both the Rivian and the Jeep on that.
Awesome.
I just love getting out there and having fun. That's
Yeah.
what it's all about. Just kind of disconnecting and finding the balance between, working hard and playing hard, right?
Absolutely. Got to find the balance.
So talking about work, working hard. What's your daily? Is the Rivian your daily, or do you take the Jeep sometimes? How's that work?
The Rivian's my daily. Going from the e-tron to the Rivian, my first EV was the e-tron, and the range anxiety was real, man. Like, just going to where I had to go and coming back home was like I could only do that. I can't do anything else because the
Uh,
range was so bad, right? With the
Mhm.
Rivian, it's like, oh, man, I can go anywhere I want. Like, I'm gonna like do a detour. I'm gonna go over here, and so I think that kind of helped change my mindset, of
yeah,
like, I've got plenty of range. I mean, at 100% charge, I get 300 miles, easy.
yeah.
Yeah.
You um, and so yeah, so that's, that having that as a daily, and it's so funny. Like, people, oh, what about range? I'm like, how many miles do you drive in a day? Like, for the love,
Exactly.
like, like, I mean,
Yep.
I'm in those. I drive a lot. I'll put 10, 15, 20. Sometimes I remember one year I put 50,000 miles on my car.
Whoa.
50. That's
So
it. It was awful.
how long have you had it, and how many miles you got?
I've got only 3,000 miles on it, and I got it at the end of, at literally the, like, December 27th or something like that.
Ow.
So I
Yeah.
had it for 2 months, really,
Hmm.
a month and a half, so I got 3,000 miles on it.
So you're on pace to still hit 20 or so.
Yeah, at least. Um, like, that Utah trip was that was kind of one of its maiden voyage. I mean, we drove around town and whatever,
Mhm.
and the whole time was like, I'm going to Winter Jamboree. Yeah, I'm towing the Jeep. I
That's
don't know how I'm
awesome.
doing it, but I'm doing it, and so everything was prepping for that. And I used to be an engineer, and so like my mind just kind of like
Mhm.
figures out how to do stuff. So I got the weight safe hitch,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and like, honey, how much do you weigh, and how much does this weigh, and blah 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 blah, and like got it all dialed in, and just had fun with it. But yeah, it's my daily driver. I guess much better range than my Jeep. Um, you know,
Yeah.
I think maybe 200 miles on the Jeep.
Really?
Yeah, I mean it's a gas hog. I
Yeah.
love every moment. I love just turning it on every once in a
Yeah.
while and hearing that V8 kind of like do its thing.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's not good for daily driving.
No.
Mm.
I love the fact of somebody like you, because I mean that I still like uh, the feel and the everything about like gas vehicle and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
everybody seems to think once you go electric, you can't love those things, Like, and so I love seeing people like you that are, got this big, massive Jeep with a V8 Hemi in it, and you got this Rivian, and so I don't know, I love seeing that because you can love both things. They both have
Absolutely.
use case scenarios, and we should be okay with that. We don't have to be all in one way or the other. So.
Mhm.
100%. I'm a car guy. I love car. I mean, I went to the Barrett Jackson event,
Mhm.
last month, and just looking at all the old classic cars and the muscle cars, and the sound and the smells, and I love that. But I like to go fast and as
Yeah.
well, right?
Mhm.
Safely, right? In case of
Yeah.
a cop.
Yeah.
Um, Funny enough, like so I was in e-tron. I think I was going 70 in the 35,
Oof.
and well, I was just cruise. I wasn't even thinking.
Yeah.
Cop pulled me over, and I'm like, I was going pretty fast there, wasn't I? I was like,
Sorry?
no hiding that. You can't hide 70 and 35.
No, you can't.
But you can go real like the Rivian's a sports car.
It
It
It's a
is.
is.
Yeah.
sport. It's amazing. Like
Mhm.
you put it in sport mode, you hit the low setting, and it goes and it
Yep.
sticks.
It's just
So like
planted.
yeah, it's planted, man. Like takes the turns really well. I mean, coming from an Audi, right, high performance,
Mhm.
vehicle with quattro and really good tires to the Rivian. Like I'll take on an Audi any day. Not to
Yeah.
say that we should be racing. I'm just saying the the feel of it is so good.
Oh yeah.
And it's hard to I think you made a post recently, like, you just gotta go out there and try. Until you've driven it,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't have that roar and the feel and the rumble and the smells, but that's what your project car is for, right? Your
Yeah.
Yeah.
weekend
Mhm.
Mustang or whatever you want.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I love both. I'm not a tree hugger. I think, like, there's this
Yeah.
whole, like, thing, "Oh, you're an EV, and now you must,
Yeah.
think
Yep.
all these" like, no, I just don't wanna pay $750 every time I go to Hurricane, Utah,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yep.
know?
Well,
Literally what it costs.
yeah, and you still love nature. You're part of an
Love it.
organization that goes out there and cleans up and does all this stuff. So, I mean, you know, I think that these just get shoved into these camps, and it's
Yeah.
not how it has to be.
No.
I think
You know,
I think that's one of the underlying, like, I feel like it is kinda I stumble into these things and I realize, "Oh, something's happening here," right? There's a
Mhm.
whether it's a trend or a feel or whatever it is, and it's like, like, if you look at what I'm doing, I mean, the picture of a Rivian towing this massive Jeep, it's the two polar opposites. Like, you
It
cannot
is.
get more opposite,
Yeah.
and I think that's the story that I'm inadvertently telling is like, "Hey, like, you can have both of these worlds."
Yes.
Mhm.
Right? Like, on my Instagram, it's like, "Why should you have to choose?"
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, do what you love. That's it. Just
Absolutely.
go do that and be passionate towards that, and I think, you know, um, it just kind of naturally fell into this story, and I think it's something that it can lend itself to a lot more other conversations around like, hey, like we don't even have to agree on things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can still
Yep.
be friends, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like you can have both sides, and I think when people ask me like, was it worth it? I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, I do these trips a lot, and I keep track. Actually, my wife keeps track of how much it costs, right? She's the CFO. She does a really good job of like, hey, like,
Oh.
Not me.
um, it's just, hey, like this last trip was $750 in gas to Hurricane, Utah, where I drove the Jeep and back. I spent 100, I think it was like 180, $160 round trip charging,
Nice.
right? And the funny part about that, it was like $75 to get there, right? In the Rivian in charging costs, right? And then I'd unload the Jeep, go to the gas station. I had a quarter tank, and it cost me $70 to fill the tank. I'm like, huh? Like, if you just do the math, and the
Yeah.
question is, how much time did you spend charging? I spent about 3.5 hours charging. That's about $110 an hour
Mhm.
Yeah.
saving.
Yeah.
Yep.
$110 an hour. I'll sit for an hour.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Compared to driving my Jeep to the same destination that I just got to. By the way, way more comfortably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
took longer, but like, I mean, that ride is plush, man. It's
Oh,
nice,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know.
Yep. Yep,
So
it is.
any day, like
Yeah.
I'll do that any day. It's all good.
I agree with
And
that.
those are the things. It's like you don't have to give up, being a car guy.
Yep.
I have an old 1955 Jeep in the garage that I'm restoring, and
Awesome.
it's all original, and I'm
Oh, that's cool.
I'll still do that. When that thing's done, I'll probably get something else, right? And
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I'll always be wrenching on something, but it doesn't mean that I have to, throw my money at gas.
Yeah.
I could spend that money someplace else, by the way. You know what I mean? Do more
Yep.
fun things or whatever I want, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think this is a good place to end things because we can, end on a note of you bringing, two worlds together and combining them, and
Yeah.
thinking that we need to always be branching out and talking to people and showing them the joy of, electric vehicles and just things in your life. So
Yeah.
I would definitely urge people to go check out Samuel at iam.rocklander, right? Yeah. On
Rocklander.
Instagram. Rocklander, sorry.
Yeah.
Rocklander, my bad. iam.rocklander on Instagram. He posts a lot of fun stuff. He's a lot of fun on this podcast, but he's also a lot of fun on Instagram. So,
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on.
all right. Thanks,
Thanks for
Samuel.
having me. Take care, yo.
Thanks for listening. Find all of our show notes at allelectricfamily.com/allelectricconversations. Be sure to connect with us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at All Electric Family. Find us on Twitter as All Electric Fam. You can find our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoyed this story, please be sure to share it and hit that subscribe button. Leave a review and help inspire others to hit the road. Until next time, stay charged.